In China, one of the most common ways to greet someone isn't, how are you? It's something much, much more fundamental. It's a question that, believe it or not, unlocks a 3,000-year-old story of a civilization. A story written not in ink, but in flavor. So, what is that greeting? Let's get into it.
吃饭了吗? Have you eaten? This simple question, you'll hear it all over China. From bustling city streets to quiet villages, it's so much more than just a pleasantry. It's a really profound expression of care, and it's a window into a history that's been shaped by both incredible abundance and, at times, devastating scarcity.
See, that's the thing. In China, every single dish, every grain of rice, every cooking method tells a story. It's a record of geography, it's a lesson in philosophy, and it's absolutely a demonstration of power. So let's dive in and explore that history one delicious chapter at a time.
Okay, so to really get Chinese cuisine, you have to go way back to the beginning. We're talking about two foundational pillars, the vast, diverse geography of the land itself, and this core philosophy of balance that just runs through the entire culture. So take a look at this. You're basically seeing the great culinary divide of China, and it's all drawn by climate. In the colder, drier north, up around the Yellow River, wheat is king. This is the absolute heartland of noodles, dumplings, and those amazing steamed buns. But if you travel south to the warmer, wetter climate of the Yangtze River, everything changes. Rice dominates, from a simple bowl of steamed rice to a comforting bowl of congee. This one agricultural reality created two completely distinct food cultures from the very start.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. It wasn't just about geography. A whole layer of philosophy was built on top of it. This principle of the harmony of five flavors, it's not just about making food taste good. It's a deep concept, tied right into Confucian ideals of balance. An ancient text actually advises adding more sour in the spring, more bitter in the summer, spicy in the fall, and salty in winter, all balanced out with sweetness. The whole goal was to create meals that weren't just tasty, but were complete, healthy, and totally in tune with the seasons.
And if you want proof of how deep this connection between food and culture goes, check this out. The Chinese character for beauty, mei, is literally a combination of the characters for large and goat. Just think about that for a second. To the ancient Chinese, a large, healthy goat, a key source of food, was the very symbol of beauty. Food wasn't just fuel, it was the foundation of their entire sense of aesthetics. All right, so we've got the land and the philosophy, but that's not the whole story, right? A cuisine is also forged by technology. And in China, the evolution of cooking was really a story of brilliant innovation, and a lot of the time, it was driven by pure necessity. For literally thousands of years, the main way to cook was steaming, using these earthenware pots with holes in the bottom. Then you see boiling and stewing in these massive, ornate bronze vessels, but that was mostly for the rich and powerful. The real game changer, though, came with the widespread use of iron. By the Tang Dynasty, the one technique that would define Chinese cooking for the rest of the world, stir-frying, hit its golden age.
And the key to that whole revolution was the wok. Now, the wok wasn't just some random invention. It was a genius solution to a really serious problem. Fuel was hard to come by. Its curved bottom concentrated the heat from a small fire with incredible efficiency. This meant you could chop your ingredients up really small and cook a whole meal in just a few minutes using way less wood. It was an innovation born from scarcity that would shape the taste and texture of Chinese food forever.
So you've got everyday people brilliantly innovating to save a few scraps of wood. Meanwhile, at the very top of society in the imperial courts, food was being used for something completely different, to show off immense wealth, to enforce a rigid social hierarchy, and to conduct sacred rituals. I mean, just get a load of this. We're looking inside the mansion of the Duke Yanqing. The food operation here was just staggering. There was an inner kitchen just for the family's strictly regulated daily meals, and then a huge outer kitchen for throwing these lavish banquets. For one birthday celebration in 1901, the mansion hosted feasts for 12 days straight, serving 816 tables with things like shark fin and sea cucumber. This wasn't just eating, it was a massive exercise in power and logistics. And that power wasn't just in the food itself. It was reinforced by this unbelievably strict code of conduct. The seating arrangement was basically a map of the social hierarchy. There were rules for everything: how to hold your chopsticks, how to eat soup without making a noise, even how to get rid of fish bones. A banquet was a performance, a way of showing everyone exactly where they fit in the social order.
Okay, but it's important to remember that China's kitchens weren't some isolated bubble. Not at all. For centuries, trade and cultural exchange brought this constant flow of new ingredients, new flavors, and new ideas that totally transformed the Chinese palate. Think about it. The Silk Road opens up way back in 138 BCE, and suddenly you've got things we take for granted now, like grapes and walnuts, showing up in China. During the Tang Dynasty, tea drinking goes from just being a drink to this sophisticated art form, all thanks to Lu Yu's legendary Book of Tea. Then, in the 15th century, the huge naval voyages of Zheng He flood the market with spices like pepper. And of course, in more recent history, the Chinese diaspora has taken its incredible cuisine, especially Cantonese food, to literally every corner of the planet. So we've covered a lot, right? We've seen food as philosophy, technology, power, global exchange. But there's another side to this story, a much tougher, more personal side. In the 20th century, food became a symbol of resilience and, in some ways, the last bastion of freedom. Just listen to this quote. It comes from someone who grew up during the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s. At a time when so much of life was tightly controlled, the kitchen became a kind of sanctuary. Talking about what to cook, how to prepare it, and then sharing that meal, these were small but powerful acts of personal expression and community when almost nothing else was possible. And the contrast is just wow. It's almost hard to wrap your head around. On one hand, you have the Duke's feast, this incredible spectacle of imperial excess. And on the other, the reality for an average family during the Mao era, a winter diet of potatoes and cabbage, with pork and eggs being treated like precious, highly rationed luxuries. It just shows you the two extremes of food's role in China, a symbol of ultimate power and the raw material for just getting by. But here's the thing about the human spirit, right? Even in the middle of all that hardship, you find these incredible moments of ingenuity and, well, joy. This story comes from Manchuria. At the beginning of winter, families would get together and make thousands and thousands of dumplings. Then they'd store them in these big clay pots outside, where the frozen ground was like a natural freezer. For the rest of the winter, they had a ready supply of delicious food. It wasn't just about sustenance. It was a strategy for survival, a reason to come together, and a huge source of comfort. And that, right there, brings us full circle. Now we can really feel the weight of that simple question. Have you eaten? It's not small talk. It is a greeting that was forged in a history where the answer could genuinely have been no. It's a way of saying, are you okay? Are you safe? In this world of ups and downs, have you found some nourishment and comfort today? So what's the big takeaway here? It's that every time you sit down for a Chinese meal, you are opening a history book. You can read the geography of the land in its rice and noodles, the philosophy in its balance of flavors, the technology in the way it's cooked, the story of power in its traditions, and the profound resilience of a people in its very existence. This whole story just proves that what we eat is so much more than fuel. It's a record of who we are, where we've been, and what we value. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. What story is being written on your plate today?